The first tap of a conductor's wand. The first rivet in a mile-high tower. The master link at the genesis of the never-ending chain. The moment a single empty canvas meets a singular master stroke. There is no one thing. Because now, there are many. Because soon, there will be more. Because one is ever the beginning. Like the first link in an infinite chain, or the first rivet in the tallest skyscraper. The master stroke is found in the masterpiece. What will you begin?
Welcome everybody to the World Blockchain Roundtable Show. This is episode 207. Next week is our 4-year anniversary. Amazing. So we will have a celebration next week and talk about whatever the topic is. I think it's Bitcoin Pizza Day, I think is next week's show. But today we have a really good one. It's one of our favorite topics. It's come back around again, voted in by the DAO. By the way, this is a DAO-based show, and I am your hostess for the mostest this week. And I am.
You're not a hostess. You're a host for the most.
Oh, host for the most. Okay, thank you.
Get your pronouns straight.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's not a we, them, they.
No, yeah. It's
no, nothing like that. Well, anyway, so I'm the emperor of Din.social, voted and elected unanimously, maybe the first emperor of a DAO in the world, and hence the background, the columns, and the burgundy shirt, kind of like a Caesar. And joining us this week here at the top, we have Andrew Joseph and Zach Kaiser.
Here.
Right. You're here. And at the bottom below me, you can see on the screen, we have Satoshi Sean, everyone's friend. And then we have Litecoin Lisa. And we welcome the panel to our show today, and all those watching, listening, and wherever you're at, please make sure you give us a like and a share and a subscribe and all that yada yada stuff. But today's episode is what are we talking about today? Well, first of all, let's go back to last week before we jump into this week. Last week was a really good one. It was campaigns accepting public or private crypto donations. Imagine a candidate receiving private donations. Well, we talked about this and the implications of that, and all of things associated with blockchain in regards to cryptocurrency and campaign donations. The hosts from last week will receive 95 lot, and each topic contributor for last week, those are the questions asked to the panel, each received 41 lot. And last week's theme, wow, what a shocker. I'm just now reading this, was nominated by the Emperor, I Am, who also received 41 lot. Zach seems to think that he can catch up to me, but yeah, we'll see. You might have to take me out first. It's competitive.
That might be the plan.
These lot tokens. It's a mutiny. It's a mutiny. But they provide perpetual passive income and free edits when you start posting on Din.social in the World Blockchain Roundtable layer. Layer is a category. And they give you governance votes so you can vote on proposals. So this is a themed show that's centered around blockchain, but participants that that log into Din can propose questions or propose themes for next month. So everything is voted upon, even the questions, and we, the panel, answer those. So this week's show is a really good one. Like I said, it's back again because it seems to be one of our favorites. It is current news topics with a blockchain solution. So there's a lot going on in the news today, and people have posted questions on current event topics. And so what we'll do, I guess we'll go through each question, and then we'll have 60 seconds for each individual to provide a blockchain solution to the current news event. Then after we get through all the questions, and there's a lot of them, so we'll have to be quick, then we'll go into the other current events, and maybe we'll add a blockchain solution to that. So panel, are you ready?
As ready as I'll ever be, I think.
All right. Is there anything we'd like to talk about or discuss before we get into today's topic?
There is just one thing that I think has a lot of merit that has to do with, so just yesterday, Brendan Carr from the FCC was talking about the first 100 days of the FCC, since we are talking about current events and blockchain solutions for those. And they're actually talking about pulling the licenses for ABC, NBC, CBS, and pushing the because they saw that the national news was controlling the local news. And so they want to give more control to the local news. So
the FCC is talking about doing this,
which I've been talking with Lisa about that for like 4 years.
Yeah, Sean has.
Remember how like everyone was scared of the FCC? Remember Howard Stern would get like huge fines. I remember when I was, a young fellow, they hit him for like $100,000, because he would go too far. Say just lewd, not even cursing.
Right.
And when CBS like doctored that interview, that's like, you're not a news organization. Why aren't you in trouble? So no one's. It's obvious that they're playing along. It's obvious, and all of a sudden, they're going to do their job.
Well, isn't it Clear Channel that owns a lot of the local stations, and that's why you also see kind of the same memo or same news it's read on either ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, local channels. Yeah. It's almost word for word. It's very controlling. It's Project Mockingbird.
Brainwashing.
Yeah.
What is it? Clear Channel for the left, Sinclair for the right, or something.
Like that. But well, that's interesting. That's interesting, Lisa. I don't know. Well, as long as they don't touch this channel, we're good.
Yeah, no, they're talking about, getting rid of the big the big six or whatever, and giving it back to the local, because they saw the big ones controlling the local channels, and that would be better for local news to go put out that information for the people. Wow. So just thought that would be pertinent to what we're talking about, kind of lead off.
Not a good time to be maybe at Clear Channel. Who knows? All right. Well, let's bring up onto our screen here again today's episode 207, current news topic with a blockchain solution. I've already refreshed, and so let's go into our list of questions. First one is by Zach, trying to get those lot tokens. Way to go, buddy. Nice picture. I think this is Pope related.
It is.
How could blockchain adoption be a better alternative in choosing the next bishop of Rome? Should we start with you, Zach, or do you want us to kind of end with you?
You can end with me.
All right. I guess. Well, then let's start with Andrew. Go up to me and then circle back underneath down to Sean and Lisa and back to you. Andrew, your name starts with an A, buddy, so you're first.
Okay. Obviously, we're not going to be able to do the whole postal office blockchain mailing voting apparatus that they tried to copyright a couple years ago. So, but I think maybe take over a blockchain that's basically dead in the water. Use the source code, alternate it a little bit,
and try to distribute it as a voting mechanism. I'm not entirely sure. That's the best thing I can think of.
Okay, is that your final answer?
Yeah, sorry.
No problem. All right, well then I guess I'm next. Well, I can't imagine the Cardinals implementing some kind of blockchain voting method in there as they're sequestered and kept, from society and from news and information supposedly. If anyone's watched the miniseries The Borgias and how the popes were selected, back in the days of old, pretty fascinating, and the Borgias popes. But certainly voting and blockchain would work because a vote couldn't be altered or changed. It could be validated that only this person voted once and it was truly this one person, but still could remain, pseudo-anonymous, and rather than on pieces of paper. Be kind of interesting. But then they burn all the ballots. It's right? And that's part of the smoke. I don't know for sure, but fascinating. All right, Satoshi Sean, what's your answer?
Well, I haven't watched Conclave yet, so I'm not 1,000% sure. I don't know, man. I think blockchain would be better because it's all. And I agree with you. I don't think they're going to do it because this brings too much transparency to it. But I think things like this would be better to do beforehand, like maybe once a year, get it so that there's not this whole, what do Catholics really love? Ritual. This whole ritual, you know what I mean? Just have it. So, oh, he's dead. Well, it's 4 months ago we voted this guy's in, and it just, it happens quickly. Yeah, that's about it. Just would bring more transparency. Like you said, I don't think they're going to want to do that because they don't like that.
Yeah, I agree. Lisa.
I'm not interested in a new pope, so I'm not really concerned with them coming up or using blockchain. I also don't think that they would want transparency, kind of like what a lot of you guys have said, because there's a lot of evil and politics and manipulation. So I don't see it being what they want for their mechanism. So, I don't know. Corruption doesn't seek truth. So I don't see them choosing that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't think blockchain's a solution for corruption. That's my answer.
It could be, maybe.
Yeah,
because of the transparent. I like Brian's comment right here. All Catholics should be voting for their leader, not a populist leader. To take it from there, I would say with blockchain, you could theoretically have that as an option since there's over 1 billion Catholics in the world. Why not utilize transparency, the blockchain, code it and take some sort of asset, some sort of coin that's not used, reapply it, recode into it, and use Catholic that as
they'd make money on that too.
They would, yeah.
And it maybe even just letting the congregation have a vote, just it counts as one, but be part of the process.
But they aren't close to God. They do not know who needs to be pope. Only the popes know because they are the ones that are close to God. The people can't vote.
Interesting. Wow. So I think we're kind of in agreement here that blockchain isn't a fix for the Cardinals.
Not for the Cardinals, but for the people, yes. For the congregation, it would be fantastic.
Yes. The peasants.
Oh, I can just imagine everyone and their campaign slogans. I'm closer to God. No, I'm closer to God.
Well, it would be interesting too, because think of what the Gutenberg's printing press did with the availability of the Bible to the masses. And and what eventually led up to that. It wasn't just Martin Luther. Martin Luther used it for his theses, but if it wasn't for the printing press, the masses wouldn't be able to, learn how to read and realize we have rights. And then you won't have the Protestant Reformation. And I think you would have the same scenario if the Cardinals were to force into this capitulation towards the modern world of blockchain coming up, and you would have another Reformation.
That's a great thing.
As Emperor of Din Social, I can kind of relate to the situation, only except that because the votes were all on a blockchain for the leadership position and then to vote me in, there was no paper for me to burn and to put out smoke into the air. So my neighbors would know that a new emperor and the first emperor had been voted in for a DAO. So maybe I should kind of like move into this location here where they're at and start, ruling Din from the Vatican and throw out the Catholics. I'm sorry.
Did y'all know Napoleon sacked the Vatican?
What's that?
Did you know Napoleon sacked the Vatican?
Did he really?
He
Yeah,
did.
sacked
Yeah.
it and went, invaded the archives and was looking for some specific things.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Wow. And that would be kind of like if a president kind of took over the National Archives looking for certain things.
I asked Lee some questions on this because he's, Irish, so he knows a lot about Catholicism. I was born Catholic and partially raised Catholic, but the Vatican is the only city-state in truth. You can say Washington, D.C., but it's American. It has American police force. It has American troops. England or London, it's the same. It's England. So the Vatican is its own country. And I asked Lee, what if, say, 500 Mossad or 500 Israelis go, just to go to Rome, on holiday, but then they go meet up at the embassy, get loaded up. They could take over the Vatican. They could invade the country. And, what could they do? The Swiss Guard, they couldn't repel that. They can't. And then they could go and take all the hidden stuff. He's like, oh no, they have a protection treaty with Italy. So I was like, oh, okay. So it's one of those things. So it is, Roman and Italian.
Yes. Yeah, it is. By the way, Sean, I'm sorry that when I throw up the comments from people watching, it covers your face.
That's okay.
Bye, Sean. Anyway, I feel like I have so much control. All right, let's move on to the next question. Another one from Zach. Speaking on behalf of this man, I guess. I don't know. In light of Kanye's new song that dropped, can we finally say that society is toast now that a black man admits in auto-tuned garbage that he is a Nazi? What? Say it ain't so. Zach, you're going to have to go first on this one. You went last on the last.
I just watched one of my
Lisa
buddies.
and back around.
Yeah, one of my buddies actually sent a clip of him recording it, and it's all auto-tuned, and he's literally I don't want to say it for YouTube purposes, but HH, that's the chorus.
Wow.
Heil,
Wow.
And it's all auto-tuned.
He's the greatest rapper of all time. He has to auto-tune it down, or else it's shooting.
But he actually made a song. He's actually, or at least making a song. I'm not. Yeah.
So how does blockchain fit into this, Zach?
Yeah. How can?
I don't know. I was trying to fit it into something, and then I think I forgot to add in the blockchain rhetoric. How would blockchain fix it? It would give the people more transparent opportunity to reject all this garbage that's coming out, whether it's Kanye or Travis Scott and his garbage.
They could see how much auto-tune was used.
Oh, there you go.
Exactly.
I was going to say, my answer is you could track his decline, his mental illness, and his lies. Because one minute he's saying he's closest to God, the next minute now he's saying he's
Yeah.
a Nazi. Then he's saying, I mean, he's gone, MAGA hat to Nazi to super Christian to whatever. So, blockchain could track his views. And then people could go back and see, instead of just being hearsay of, oh, something was printed about him. No, where's the chain of his stances or ideas or whatever. And then they could form their own opinion of how wackadoo he is.
There
If you
you
want to
go.
talk chain, I mean, you just look at everything connected to the Kardashians, from O.J. Simpson, being, with their dad, to Kanye, to Bruce Jenner. It's just anything connected with him, it goes in a very weird direction.
Yeah, good point. Well, my answer would be, I'm sorry, I'm not even showing the clock here. My answer real quick would be, I think that the music industry is controlled. And if you want to see that it actually becomes a real free market, then maybe blockchain could help with that. And that would be the solution. So that blockchain would, how can we put it? Let's say that you would be able to see all of the music and the actual sales on the blockchain, rather than some kind of producer pumping a particular artist or a particular song who maybe doesn't have talent because of auto-tune and this kind of thing, where I think a lot of artists are chosen and rise to the top on the charts rather than organically growing from a grassroots, like, hey, I really like this artist, I like this song, I like this music, I like this genre or whatever. And then it would be validated through blockchain voting. Say it's like Din.social, a poly market. There you go.
I think it has become a lot more like that. And there's been several projects that were trying to do that, to revolutionize the music industry a couple of years ago. But that was kind of the same time the music industry was dying and the new streaming, music industry was coming. So it was all, it was like trying to build a better horse and buggy when the car was coming out. It was a bad time.
Yeah. Tom McDonald is a good example.
Yeah, he's a great example. He's like,
he's doing it all on his own with his family,
and not with no help, and not just with no help. With they're all the music platforms are literally working against him.
Yeah.
But they're dying. So
yeah,
it is. I think it's the future. I think this is somewhere where blockchain, the music industry will definitely take hold. It's just like supply chain, something where it's like so tailor-made and it's very quickly accepted. I think that blockchain will be accepted by the music industry and change it and revolutionize it.
Agreed. Law of economics will win. Andrew, what's your answer, Andrew?
I was thinking about episode we did yesterday for Frank and Monero, and they're talking about how they can kind of anticipate how people are going to like speculate transactions and stuff like that. In the context of this, it's that you're going to try to make an accurate prediction of what next outrageous thing he's going to do, and just context clues, right? And try to pick it up and make bets on stuff like that. So no guarantees. It's just the theory.
All right. Good. All right. I think we've got Kanye covered here. Let's move on to the next one.
I think we do.
Uh-oh. Another one from Zach. Look out. Zach attack.
Whoa.
Uh-oh. Barbie. Who is Barbie? No. We know.
Yeah.
Well, for the audience, Zach, who is Barbie? Tell us.
Pam Bondi.
Okay.
She looks like a plastic doll, man.
She's really 94 years old too, and she looks like that. It's a little weird.
Barbie, yeah. Here, I'll read the question here. Barbie and the 7-Eleven director are at it again with the Epstein shenanigans. with Barbie even going on record to say that the FBI is busy reviewing the files for release. How does blockchain ensure that government silliness gets eroded and that bureaucrats like Barbie and the 7-Eleven guy get the rope? All right, Sean, we're going to start with you, work our way to the top. On the next question, we'll start with me at the top and work my way down. And by the way, anytime anyone says matter, as in like din.social's matter token, I have to take a drink, and I got plenty of coffee and water here to keep me going.
So with
Sean.
encryption, they can not show the actual files, but it could show the agents who are supposedly working on them and what they're doing, what they're going through, what they're working on, and what they're sending to. What's important, what's not important. They could show progress. There would be transparency because right now you're just trusting that there's agents doing it, and they could say, "Oh, we have 8,000 agents working on it." Oh, we have 8. And you just okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you could do that.
Good.
Great answer.
Good answer. All right, Lisa.
So there has been some information come out that Barbie formerly defended Pfizer. And so that's a concern. So some of that could be put on blockchain. And so that could be validated or not. And then that would be something that, as far as getting to the rope point, having the accountability, are you going to be guilty of treason for misprison, or because you allowed something? That could get you to the rope.
Good one. This was from our last question. My apologies, I didn't get. Let me get that banner off there. The music industry is dead. They should monetize their creations similar to NFTs. Agreed. All right. So let me get that off. I don't know what I'm doing here.
I just work here.
I just work there. Florida sun. We'll do that. I don't know what that is. And hello, smart people. Hello, Great Kazoo. All right, Lisa, let me reset the clock and provide your blockchain solution. Did you? I guess
I felt like I did, but maybe I didn't make it clear. So I was saying, like, the blockchain solution would be that they would have like their either past cases, conflicts, credentials on blockchain, and then that could be applied to as things came up in the future, like the Pfizer issue or Epstein or whatever, and then that would get to the rope.
I get you. My apology.
The issue of treason and misprison for treason.
Zach. No, I like it. I like both of those answers, honestly, because it all comes down to accountability. So if we can just seek accountability, that's all I care about at this point. So I yield my time.
Forced accountability, because there is no people. It's obvious a government, anything in government,
there's no self-accountability.
There has to be forced accountability. So people need transparency in order to force the accountability.
Great point. Excellent. All right, Andrew.
Well, let me just put it this way. Governments trade in secrets, right? And we need social pressure to keep those secrets boiling, and so people are aware of what's going on. So when you have their activities constantly streamed on the blockchain, you have more eyes and more knowledge about the actions that the people are committing. I guess the best thing you could do is just keep trying to keep things as transparent as possible and make sure that it's always in the forefront of people's thought processes.
All right, good one. And I'll finish off. I'll say this. It makes me think of the WikiLeaks, the Panama Papers, and other things that were kind of like posted out there for everyone to see. by a whistleblower. You know, we have Snowden, Julian Assange, all of these different, you know, people that had insight or plugged into a government and was able to, you know, tattletale, if you will. And imagine if, you know, we had some agents at the FBI saying, you know, this needs to get out to the real people and not get sequestered within bureaucracies, and was posted to a blockchain where the information could be, again, transparent. You know, no one could delete it or alter it or change it. That's where I think maybe we need blockchain plugged into whistleblowers within these different agencies is another good way of trying to find out who actually went to the island and all of that history. Anyone else want to add to that?
To go back to the media stuff, is why isn't it flipped where someone just asks, how do we know you're doing this? How do we know there's a bunch of how do we know this isn't another Steele dossier? It's the same pablum being spewed that, oh, this is, you know, we're working on it, and this is valid, and these people are bad, and these people are not, they're not on it, and they're fine. It's all, there's literally no transparency. Everything's done behind closed doors, and then you find out huge lies just whenever, you know, whoever's in power, but nothing happens. I mean, what's his name, Schiff or whoever, just blatantly lied, you know, and no consequences.
Mm-hmm. You know, I hope that the American public, or the world, shall we say, doesn't let this go, because we know that there are still predators out there that have not been prosecuted, have not been locked up, or received the rope, as it was put in the question. And so the American public needs to hold the government accountable and keep pushing this, keep moving this to the forefront. We're doing it right here on World Blockchain Roundtable. We're bringing this to the forefront. We're not letting this thing go. We're going to keep talking about it, keep mentioning it. It's going to keep showing up. It's going to show up on all kinds of feeds and podcasts. Well, remember, we still don't have the Epstein list. We still don't have the other files. We still don't know all of the details. There was video. Where is all the video? Who was on those videos? And the people got to stop, not let the government get away with sequestering.
But I don't think they will. I don't think there are. I mean, there's so much already exposed there that's out there, and there's not enough rage. Talk about podcasts. There was, you know, this mustache guy, forget his name. He was on Rogan, and they were talking about like bad stuff, and they started talking about Podesta and, you know, Clintons and everything, and then Rogan started talking woo. What about this and this, like, you know, conspiracy? And he's like, no, don't do that. He goes, you don't even go into that. There's so much that's blatant and concrete right here. Here's this guy's Instagram, and the pictures that were on there were, oh my God. Here's this, you know, this is stuff that this guy posted. This is something like this person said. Don't start talking about all, you know, theories. There's more than enough just here to have someone put away forever, you know.
Lisa, you're going to say something.
Yeah, here's a problem with going after people through the Epstein case, is that if they go through the Epstein case, there's already been several victims that have taken deals through the Epstein case. And if they take a deal through the Epstein case, then they cannot prosecute any of the people that, then they sign an NDA, and that lets off all the people that harmed that person. And so part of the key, it only goes after Epstein and Ghislaine, prosecuting through the Epstein case. So it's almost better to delay the Epstein case, but hold that information and go after all these other, you know, whaters individually. And most likely they're doing that on a state basis through these entities at the state level. And so there are other things happening in that way. There was also one other point, but that was my main point, was that there were there'd already been some payoffs, and that had actually kicked, the can the wrong way and let people off because people took payoffs through the Epstein case. Victims took.
I don't trust that the government's going to follow through and prosecute these people. Even at the state level,
it lets a lot of people off because the way the law is written and the way that that's part of the thing is like, there are laws and there are loopholes, and that's why people get attorneys and they pay lots of money to get a good attorney, because it's not about what's right or what's wrong. It's about how they say the deal or work the deal or what they can prove.
I don't think it is anymore. I don't think it is. I think, like I just said, it's blatant what he did. I mean, look at,
doesn't matter.
Hunter, it was obvious. And he never got arrested for the crack. He never got arrested for the other stuff. He got arrested for something trivial and then was able to get a pardon, which covered everything else.
It proves the point that Joe often says.
But you look at Maxwell. You all brought Maxwell up. She was arrested for trafficking no one. She was arrested for, that doesn't make any sense. There's no way she should be legally in jail without a victim, without other stuff coming to light. It's like she's in there for murder. Who'd she murder? Well, don't worry about it. She murdered someone. She's in prison for murder. No,
I think that has
no law. Loopholes equal no law. There is no law.
Exactly.
Because these people can either pay and to get out or get away with it, or pay and change the law so they don't get it convicted. What were we going to say, Zach?
Oh, I think when it comes to the Maxwell case, I think that's where we're stuck into narratives. We don't really it was so shut down and quieted in order to make sure, like, wasn't there a court order by the judge to make sure no cameras or no press got in? It's not what they possibly proved. We don't necessarily know because it's not public. They like ordered it to make a public trial that should be on public record to stay obsolete and in silence. So we don't know. So we don't necessarily know. Maybe she was actually convicted of human trafficking, or maybe it's just
held in protective custody, and they're going after those individuals.
True.
And stopped the big Epstein case because that's how people were getting off. That's how, they take these big guys that there was also, what's that guy? R. Kelly's attorney got on a couple days ago, and she said, R. Kelly said, if I'm going down, then you guys are all going down with me. And that's when the Diddy thing came out. And they should have taken my call. They owed me to take my call. And once again, our country has not been run. That's been proven with these 14 magical printing machines. Our country is not run on money. It's run on blackmail, and that's what's been, the elites have been running on and using. And when that system fails, then, then we, the people, are shut out of it. And so to Zach's point, we don't know. She could be in protective custody and they could be playing some other game. We don't know.
If only it was all on blockchain.
Yeah.
Greg is in the lobby.
If only it was on
Greg's
blockchain.
in the lobby? Cool.
Yeah.
Greg. Welcome, Greg.
Welcome, Greg.
You're on mute.
muted.
You're muted, Greg.
Hey, guys.
There we go.
How's it going?
Hey. Welcome.
Hey, not bad.
All right. I hope
I
you
had a
weren't in
washing
this
machine to a dryer to help shepherd in the door this morning, so I had to get that done first.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's good to be able to do laundry again.
Well, we're into the next question here is proposed by Zach. It's current events and using a blockchain solution. So I'm supposed to start this one and work our way down. In the midst of India and Pakistan stirring up a war that could most certainly unalive us all, how does the blockchain help delay Pakistan and India from using tactical nukes and inevitably the great big one that will end us all? So I'm first on this one. We'll work
I had
our
a
way
dream
down.
about this last night. Actually, it's weird.
Yeah, I am. Let me get our countdown going here. So, what provoked this most recent thing was the terrorist attack on the border by some terrorist, Muslim extremist terrorists, whatever you want to call them, and then India, doing a retaliatory strike. I guess if it was more transparent, if there was a way to find out who these terrorists were they funded by, a nation state or Pakistan, or where did they come from? Because Pakistan's denying that they were involved. India says that they were, and it becomes a tit for tat that is growing into an all-out war, and it's pretty damn scary. I don't honestly know how blockchain could solve this, so I'm going to have to punt down to the other experts here on the panel. Go ahead, Zach. No, Andrew.
Well, historically, Pakistan and India have been allergic to one another. They've been fighting over Kashmir for decades. So is this anything new? And it's kind of like Bill Clinton in the 90s, how he's saying, it'll take 20 years for us to get the oil up and running, to make oil and stuff like that in the United States for gasoline. The sooner you start, the sooner it ends. But the more you delay, it's just, white knighting for their power. So if you want to solve problems like this, you have to decentralize the money, and that's all there is to it.
Sorry, gentlemen and lady. Zach.
That's fair. Yeah, you got to decentralize the money. I mean, it all goes back to dollars. But at the same time, to your point, William, I think using the blockchain to bring about transparency, that might be a better option in quelling what Pakistan might do. Because, I mean, if by retaliating towards this terrorist attack on India, Pakistan has a first use policy. If they feel like they're going to get absolutely demolished, which they would by the Indian army, their first priority is to protect themselves by basically just start destroying everything. So they will use nukes if they absolutely have to. So I think the idea would be the transparency aspect to bring accountability towards who actually did this, who backed them. And if Pakistan's involved, maybe that puts a check and balance, and the rest of the world looks at Pakistan and says, hey, why'd you do this?
Good one. Lisa.
Yeah, I'm not, this is not my area, but I would go to Zach's point of, knowing where the actual, I think we have a lot of dirty hands in the nukes, and we've seen, if you look back in history, even recent history, people saying that this missile came from this place or who started this war. There's a lot of questioning around a lot of that. So knowing the actual origin of this, that being able to be put on blockchain and being verified might stop a lot of wars. Knowing who is actually involved.
Good one. True. All right, Sean.
I do know a little bit about this. So this was inevitable. Pakistan was basically created by the British when they owned India. It was to separate the Muslims from the non-Muslims, Christians, Hindus, and so on. So Pakistan is like 1,000% Muslims. And it was like a segregation of a country is what England did. Interesting fact, Pakistan's a lot smaller than India with a lot smaller population and smaller military, like Zach said, but not too much smaller than military when it comes to like submarines, Navy, soldiers. But they have more nukes than India. So I think that this is going to become a proxy war. However,
yikes.
And this is the scary thing that I haven't heard anyone talk about, and Lisa can step up on this because she does know some stuff about what I'm going to bring up, is that everyone's friends with India. Russia is BRICS. India is the eye. We're friends with India. We want to use India to replace our China, which is what Lisa keeps talking about, that most of the stuff for medicines and everything else comes from India. So India could replace our dependency on China. What really is in the craw of a country, India is China. But I think this is going to evolve or de-evolve into a proxy war where it's just like Ukraine. It's going to be the big guys funding and propping up different sides, but it's going to be religious instead of for money when it comes to Pakistan. So it is, I don't know about it ending us all, but I think any attack on India would really benefit China because it would hurt their agriculture and just their whole infrastructure and the people and the whole region. Also, India believes in karma being an actual thing, and that's where all the scams come from. So, they should stop that.
Greg, what's your answer?
Okay,
Provide
so
a blockchain answer to this one.
So here's the answer. The thing about nukes is that nobody who lives in the countries that wield them want them used, right? This is a thing that is averse to the people of a place and only popular among those who are powerful, who believe, maybe stupidly, that they can protect themselves specifically from it, right? Blockchain, however, is a border-destroying form of trade, right? If we want to see the people of Pakistan and the people of India not want each other's destruction, they need to be interacting, and that needs to be outside the realm approved of by the states that run those territories. A blockchain-based economy that had absolutely no methods by which either could stop the other from trading with each other, from interacting on a peaceful level, that would create interests that would ultimately make the people resist the use of those weapons in a way that you won't see if trade is constricted based on what the nation states that run them want. So that's how blockchain could stop it.
Great point, Greg. That's brilliant. I would only add that it's pretty difficult once you've inserted, like Sean says, this is a religious war as well. I know blockchain is supposed to be neutral in this, but to get the people to adhere to that neutrality with the emotional rise of religion and fervor that the other religion is trying to destroy my religion or my people. That's tough, and it's hard, I think, for people to accept that. Let's just hope and pray that we have some form of peace that comes out of that, because like Sean says, it's pretty scary. It could become a proxy war. We have Russia really is kind of, I think India gets like 60% of their military equipment from Russia, but yet Pakistan and Iran are aligned, and Iran is aligned, a lot with Russia.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the
Russia and China. That puts Russia and China at odds. Where right now we've pushed Russia into China's arms essentially from the Ukraine thing. So I could see how this could turn into a proxy war and upset the apple cart.
Right.
And I think that's where we need blockchain to find out where the transparency, where the money's coming from.
Right.
Which is what everybody kind of alluded to. It's about the money.
But each of these wars always starts with sort of an isolation aspect, right? Like, we're on the brink of war with Iran all the time, in part because there are no U.S. interests that are heavily trading with Iranian interests, right?
Right.
So the moneyed interests that would lobby against the war in D.C. don't exist because they aren't there. They're not allowed to exist, right? It's sanctions is always the beginning of that kind of violence, and I'm guessing that you can't trade between India and Pakistan super easy. This is my guess. and that the development of those moneyed interests has been prevented, and those moneyed interests are what need to exist in order to stop this war.
Agreed. Let's hope for peace. Next one from Alt Blocks. All right. Oh, Trumpflation. Trumpflation is about to hit us like a sack of bricks. They're predicting extreme shortages beginning in the next weeks. In the next few weeks, prices, especially on goods from China, are expected to double or triple. They're calling it the biggest tax hike in American history since American suppliers are the ones who pay tariffs. On one hand, people might use crypto to hedge against economic chaos. On the other, there's a probability they might pull money out of crypto in mass to cover the rise in living expenses. So, question, do you think this is good or bad for crypto markets? And which token is the best for safekeeping these days, do you think? Let me put it one quick caveat. There is kind of a terms of service for World Blockchain Roundtable. One, we do not provide financial advice. Two, this isn't a channel that we pick one blockchain over another or one crypto over another. And so usually we don't talk about prices or investment ideas. That's just how this show is run and was created. So we kind of have to adhere to that. So I think probably what we could talk about in this question, and correct me if I'm wrong, panelists, but do you think this is good or bad for the crypto markets? Greg, let's start with you.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think this is probably going to be not necessarily impactful on markets, right? I think that the way crypto is going to influence this is going to be in creating side economies that will not be trackable by our standard numbers. What you see in markets that are heavily restricted, right? Subject to massive tariffs, for instance, is black markets emerging around the side and gray markets emerging around the side. Difference between black and gray, of course, being like the products, right, that they sent. Toothbrushes are a gray market if they're tariff free because they're normally legal for sale. But fentanyl is a black market commodity that will remain black market regardless of whether or not there's tariffs or whatever. So from a gray market standpoint, it could be huge, right? But it won't be tracked by official statistics. So that's always the key for gray and black markets. We won't know if this is happening from standard economics, but you will see the ability to buy tax-free toothbrushes, for example, emerge around you from little pop-up shops in people's trunks. If you start seeing a lot of individuals like going, "Hey, buddy, you want to buy some Chinese toys?" You'll know that you've got potentially a crypto intermediate gray market, assuming you can actually spend crypto to buy cheap Chinese products, whereas you'd normally have to pay 3 times that much at the store. Now, the notion that this is the greatest tax increase in American history is hyperbolic because the Fed has been busy at that for since 1913. So we should take it with a grain of salt here because the biggest tax on us is one that nobody in power is ever talking about.
Good point, Sean.
Well, I think Greg kind of hit that nail on the head. I don't think it's going to be as huge for us in the West. I think in China it's going to be massive. I don't know if you guys remember, but 5 years ago, China kept outlawing crypto, and then it's okay, and then it's illegal, and it really pushed people to just they defied the government, started black markets, and they used crypto. Everyone used it on their phone. People were, and people were putting it on the internet. Oh, it's, we're just using crypto. We're using Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin and XRP are probably the best ones because they're the biggest and most popular, and one of them is the banking one. I think there's blockchains that are better, and privacy coins. I think will make a big splash. But I think those two are going to be the mainstream ones that are best for kind of hanging on to. But I've always said if there was an actual war with China, that we would hit this even quicker. But so we are having that war, but it's a trade war, and China is crumbling. Their economy is just it's falling apart. At a pace that is unbelievable for just words, and tariffs. Plants are shutting down. Construction has stopped. It's insane. It's even faster than I thought it would be.
Well, didn't 40 banks just fail in
Mhm.
like 1 week?
Yep.
Insane.
What about
That's what they're saying. Lisa, what's your answer, Lisa?
So to kind of piggyback on what Sean's saying and Zach, this is affecting China way more. They have nowhere to ship their items. Their people are losing jobs. Their factories are closing. Trump said they need us way more than we need them. And if you look at the actual people, not what media is telling you, and hopefully they'll be gone soon. The FCC will take their licenses, their lying licenses. The ports are full with product, and we have more than we need. If you go to any estate sale and our, used store storage center, America is full of stuff. We have plenty to get us by until manufacturing can get up and going. And we saw during COVID how quickly they can turn a manufacturing center around and get it up and scalable. So we're not in a position where that's going to hurt. And actually, the inflation is not coming from a Trumpflation, as you call it, but it's coming from the Fed, who refuses to lower interest rates. That's the inflation part. And that's what's the cruelest tax on we the people. And so that's what I have to say about that.
Good. Zach?
I mean, Misa said it best. I mean, inflation is not what the lame people and the talking points say it is. It is literally the reflection of the expansion of the money supply. And so the inflation aspect is, to Lisa's point, is coming from the Fed. I mean, and where we're at right now, at this point, they should actually probably be starting to dip down on the interest rates a little bit, but they're kind of staying steady, and they're probably going to raise them pretty soon because, I mean, they're in competition with the Trump tariff because the Fed doesn't want tariffs. The Fed wants to continue to print more and more money and then squeeze the American taxpayer out with the interest extortion of slavery. I mean, to where we have nothing, and while they're withering away our savings. But I mean, I digress on that. The fact, would this cause a good or a bad crypto market? I don't know. I couldn't say. I mean, there's a chance that we could see a dip, but there's also a chance that crypto could become a very hefty hedge. But there's also a chance that people will pull out that can't really use crypto as that hedge. But then you're going to see more people pull in that do have the disposable income to hedge with crypto, and that could actually see a reflection in an increase of the price per the dollar in the rise of crypto. So it might actually hurt the peasantry, and those that have the means are going to be making bank hedging. But I couldn't say if it's good or bad. Could be good, could be bad, could be meh.
Andrew?
I'm just thinking in Enneagram psychology, Enneagram 9, the defense tactic for them is a poison pill, right? And we're talking about money as a mechanism for peace. So if there is like a war that was to break out like this, maybe distributed across the board, there's something that happens programmatically within the money that will cause people to apply pressure for them to stop the war. It's just an idea. It's not a guaranteed solution to the problem. So that's just something I was thinking about as a different way to address this.
Okay. Well, I'll jump in. having been at a border and dealt a lot in international business and having offices and warehouses on both sides of a border and crossing frequently, I will agree that the suppliers are the one who pay the tariffs, but that's passed on to the consumer that's purchasing, if you want to call them the supplier. So it's inevitable that either the trade stops or the need for the item is the demand for the item is so great that they're willing to pay a higher rate or a higher cost to purchase that item, which would include the tariff. As far as for China to be able to survive this or not survive this, or is this hurting China more than it's hurting us, it's kind of hard to determine that because, one, we're not boots on the ground in China. All we have is information that's being fed to us in the West about China, but it seems to be hurting them more than us. I will say this, though. When it comes to, say, dog toys or children's toys, toothbrushes, like Greg mentioned, 75% of that comes from China. So it's going to be a kind of a toyless Christmas, if you will, a lot of electronics and this kind of thing, if it continues. But the pressure to bring down the Chinese CCP or change within their government to bring back those manufacturing jobs just might happen. Having said all that, I'm sorry for the long-winded answer. Here you go. Ultimately, the law of economics is going to win. People are going to use maybe privacy. They're going to tokens. They're going to pay for things, and you're going to see more smuggling, more crossing the border with different goods. Like hey, I got a toy to sell you. Like Greg said. So that's what's going to win. As far as the crypto markets as a whole, I think there is a win for the crypto markets. I believe that it will continue to climb, and there's going to be winners and losers in any market. And I guess take it for what it is. I side with zero tariffs, a free economy where there are no taxation on goods and there's no taxation on border crossings and this kind of thing. I would much rather see that and have an equal playing field, 0 to 0% tariffs. So there you have. That's my point. Anyone else want to mention anything before we move on to the next one? And the next one, we definitely got to keep to our 60 seconds.
In a perfect world, that would be fantastic, but we don't live in a perfect world. Yeah. It's sad.
Yeah, we might, though, realize a more perfect world if we ditch the reliance on centralized authority to dictate what we're allowed to spend what on and where. So, crypto could release us from that, but it would require a kind of wholesale adoption that is unlikely to happen quickly.
Thanks to everyone watching. We have over 230 people watching on various platforms and feeds. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Appreciate all of you. Make sure you post your comments. I'll put them up here if I can, if I see them. And we'll go on to the next question again by Zach. Look at Zach Attack coming after the Emperor and his lot tokens. Florida just passed Senate Bill 56, which repeals the state's ability to issue permits for geoengineering and weather modification. This makes it the third-degree felony in the state with a 5-year max in prison and fines to upwards of at least $100,000. Recently, HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was on Dr. Phil's show, for which he was asked, while simultaneously he and Dr. Phil were a bit dismissive, one, how to stop cloud seeding and chemtrails, as they commonly referred. He deflected, saying it's not his department doing it, but he did hint it has always been DARPA. How could blockchain be used as a better deterrent than government to stop geoengineering by our very own government without the need for more government? I guess is it for me to start this one? We'll work our way down. I applaud Florida for trying, but who's to say that planes couldn't fly over the Atlantic Ocean or the Gulf of America, Gulf of Texas, and depending on how winds are blowing, and seed the chemtrails that way. So you almost need all 50 states to create this to prevent the federal government. But then again, who's to say that the federal government couldn't fly planes, let's say, over the Pacific Ocean, and that would blow in through over Washington and California? You know, it's the real issue here is what? DARPA or the federal government that's doing these things, or private individuals that are, you know, let's say Bill Gates, who talks about these in various ways, the UK government, or doing something there that it's global. Like, you know, here in Texas, we see the sands from this, you know, the Saudi Arabian or African sands blowing into Texas. You know, so pretty hard to stop. Andrew.
I remember David Friedman had a video about this, and he was talking about how pollution actually can motivate people, and that controlling pollution is actually a destructive, because without something to be fixated on and focused on, you're not going anywhere with, and not progressing with anything. So I'd say a centralized solution to something like this is never going to be the answer, because it's actually doing more harm than good.
Zach.
Agreed. I mean, central outcomes don't really do much. So the only way that we would be able to alleviate this issue is if everybody came together, and maybe perhaps the market opens up, allow the market to dictate and correct itself. And because you see companies and businesses and individuals and even governments, hopefully, because they're forced to compete, to understand that pollution in any form is not good for the environment as to yourself. Like, they got to understand that if they're cloud seeding and putting all this aluminum and bromium, etc., into the atmosphere, you're not just harming, I mean, you're not harming the peasants, you're harming yourself as well. So
Yep. All right, Lisa.
So I'm going to take a little positive spin on it and say that some genius or some genius group could come up with some way to math it up with if there was a geoengineering event that could be, you know, identified, and then take the tracking of those planes and find the licenses of those pilots. I know they do map all of that stuff, and somehow identify those pilots' license and put some kind of, you know, fine, or at least put them into a system where they would be, you know, have a court day and they would have to prove that they did not, or that they did. You know, we don't have to make them, we can still be innocent until proven guilty in this country, but we could bring them to accountability.
Could be put in a jet fuel and they wouldn't have any clue.
Yeah, John. But we would know what flight, at least.
I'm going to take the opposite stance. I think this law it doesn't do anything except anything concrete, but it raised awareness, which is a huge thing. It took a stand, and Florida stood up, and then the rest of the country's like, oh, the conspiracy theorists are freaking right again. But what Lisa's talking about is what the law did, which is infuriating and stupid. And it's going after the pilots and not the companies that are pumping the stuff into the plane. It's like, hey, we're going to arrest anyone selling drugs, but we're not going to arrest any distributors, or the cartels. Fine. We're leaving them alone. We're just arresting the guys on the street. That's what this law does. And it's not going to do anything unless the federal government passes the law, or unless a state attacks a federal company. Because right now, there's machine guns are illegal. I can get one, but it's very, very expensive and it's difficult, and you can't carry it around. There's a lot more laws. So, and everyone says,
you mean Glock switch,
for all intents and purposes, can't have a machine gun. But last I checked, even weekend warriors, National Guard have machine guns. Police have machine guns. So it's not illegal for the government. So right now in Florida, every military base could send up giant planes and they could do the cloud seeding. And there's nothing Florida can do about it except complain. So unless the federal government passes the law and then we use blockchain to track it and to have the transparency, or unless a state stands up for the law and says you're violating our law and we will now defend our people and fire on a U.S. plane, until that happens, or the federal government, nothing's going to change. But it's good that they brought this awareness and that everyone's talking about it.
I think we all agree on that. Greg.
So from a blockchain solving this standpoint, we need to put some things on chain. We need to put flight records. So right now, if you've ever used Flight Radar, that information's already out there, right? And you can see even when like the US launches their doomsday plane, you can see like flight tracker information on that stuff. It is not on chain. It is manipulable, and it is very easy to adjust right now. So they could make flights disappear. Put that on chain, that goes away. The other thing that we need to be able to track are the chemicals that they would be using for geoengineering, right? And it needs to be federally mandated that this information is tracked on chain, because the movement of these chemicals matters to people, right? So we see mass movement of these chemicals. We can coordinate that with when a plane is taking off. We can follow that plane's flight path to make sure that it's not following some kind of weird cloud seeding type of flight pattern, which will be different from any other flight pattern you might see. And all of a sudden you've got accountability on it. And once we have that, once there's no way to deny what is being done, preemptive alerts can be set up on these patterns using AI or not, using just people watching, but AI would be a really great way to do it. We can know when they're about to do it. We can know when they're doing it. We can know where the chemicals are. And if we have our government pinned down under glass like that, then we can insist that they not. But only with those prerequisites can we have any luck with it. And that's where blockchain can help.
I have a question for you. Well, it's a legal question. But so right now, these companies and NGOs are paying commercial pilots to go and pump stuff into the air. With this law, couldn't they just be government contractors for the federal government? But could DARPA then pay them to do it, and then they could legally do it because the federal government's paying them to do it?
No doubt. Yeah.
Okay.
I think many of them are.
Yeah, a lot of these probably are, in fact, government contractors.
Let me frame this in a different way. Look at the Hegelian dialect, and then look at drugs, right? You got Oregon, which everything is 100% legal. And then you have the Philippines, where they're legally encouraging people to hunt down and kill drug dealers, like just private citizens, and they're getting paid or whatever for it. Mm-hmm. Somewhere between these two wild extreme points, with the transparency, there is a solution. Usually you don't want to go with it because it's controlled, but I mean, in a situation like this, it's kind of equitable and trying to find a solution to the problem like this. It's just a different lens.
Yeah, good point. You're right. Okay, we have 3 questions left. So what we're going to try to do is a lightning round. All right. I think everyone can keep it quick so we can get through these.
I can try.
All right. Here we go. Next question is from your emperor. I am. And here we go. Just the facts, man. Just the blockchain, just the blockchain facts, man. Just the AI facts, man. With AI on the rise, Texas House passes bill requiring more transparency in political ads. I'm going to just cut to the chase. I'm not going to read all this. Basically, they're trying to cut out AI deep fakes in political ads, and anything spent over $100, they're going to fine. And they're calling it the cost of doing business is a $4,000 fine with up to 1 year jail. If you don't call out that it's an AI fake when you present the ad. So the question is, and it's a First Amendment challenge, obviously, can blockchain technology address the AI challenge of disguising between fact and fiction, or identifying whether content is AI generated or not? and maybe try to keep this in respect to the Texas law on trying to stop deep fakes with AI to sway campaigns. Greg, we'll start with you and work our way back up.
I say good freaking luck. Enjoy AI being used in non-ads to do the exact same freaking thing. There's no way that satire is any fun if you tell people that it's satire at the end of it. But
Agreed.
people can tell, right? This is a silly concern. This is a silly law, and the law will have no impact on whether or not people make fun of politicians using AI, and rightfully so. If blockchain can do anything to help us make sure this remains the case, it can make sure that companies that offer people the ability to generate things with AI can compete in their business unhindered, because they should.
All right. Well, again, we're being brief. Sean.
Did you say that they just have to call it out?
Yeah, they have to notate that they are using AI and that it's
first
fake.
off, it's worthless that it's such a small fine if it comes to actual campaigns. But
but it includes
everyone's been selling us things that kill us and doing terrible things and putting little fine print at the bottom of the screen for years. It's not that big deal if they have to call it out. There's ways that they'll call it out and nobody cares or can see it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Lisa, what are your thoughts?
I think the bigger deal is that they have to disclose that they are spending more than $100. I think that's the funny part, but I don't think it'll change anything. I don't know that blockchain addresses the challenge of distinguishing between that's the issue. Can blockchain technology address the AI challenge? I don't think it'll matter if that's the issue. They'll just use the organic part. They just won't use the AI on the ads. They'll use the AI organically. So I don't think it'll matter.
Zach.
Matter.
Oh my God.
Drink a time.
Sorry.
I said time. You got to drink again.
Put it down.
That was kind of hot. I don't recommend chugging coffee.
No.
Okay,
unless it's lukewarm. But
all right.
I don't think this is gonna ever matter. And honestly, I think the courts are gonna get involved in this. I mean, it's gonna be a fight in the courts for a while. Nothing's really gonna matter. The fact that you can still disclose in the tiniest discreet way, I mean, and nobody's really gonna notice. At least the regular people aren't gonna actually notice. It's not gonna really matter. So it is kind of funny they got to disclose that they got to pay over $100. So. But as far as blockchain, I agree. I don't really see where blockchain would fit in on this. So like what it would be able to do, I guess a transparency aspect, keep it on the chain, and then everybody can actually be able to go in and see who funded it, who put it up there, and it's there forever. So
Andrew.
I do remember a couple years ago there was a legal case in Florida about somebody who had the sticker on the back of his truck and had offended a police officer. This is before AI and all that. Basically saying I perform sexual acts on the opposite sex or whatever. Anyways, the police officer was offended because they said that it was inappropriate for their kids. So they arrested him, and the person that got arrested basically filed a lawsuit against the city and came back and said, that's violate my First Amendment rights. So this is in a way triggering in the same manner with the fine. So there's no real solution, or there's no real enforcing something like this on the books without immediately getting it repealed.
mm-hmm.
I agree. I'll be quick. I think this creates a lawfare probability that, one party is going to go after another party with this law and saying, oh, well, you didn't properly disclose that this was AI and that you had altered the news, or you'd made cuts or splices in someone, a broadcaster's, comment or news report. So it's silly, ridiculous. But the politicians can go before a crowd and say, "And I voted to prevent AI from altering and just,
from making fun of us.
campaigns and blah blah blah." It's just pointless.
I bet Britain wishes they had this law instead of what they got, though.
Oh my goodness.
Put a meme out.
Politicians are so afraid of being made fun of. It's really funny to me.
Yeah. Oh, the Federal Reserve, they're in the background with USDT. Here we go. Fed holds rates stable as it notes rising uncertainty and stagflation risk. Question: how can blockchain fix the Federal Reserve? Let's start with you, Lisa, and we'll start with Lisa. Ladies go first. We'll go up to Zach and then back around to Sean. And let's try to be brief because we still have one more question after this, and we're already an hour 20. Thanks everyone for watching. We're now over the 250 viewers. Like, share, subscribe.
It makes it, what is the word I'm looking for? Not needed anymore. I can't think of the word. Sorry.
Concentrated.
No. Irrelevant. Yeah.
Unnecessary.
Yeah.
Nullified.
All those words, unnecessary. What is it with the technology when you don't need it anymore? Obsolete.
Obsolete. Yeah.
Yes. That's my answer.
Obsolete. Blockchain makes Federal Reserve obsolete. Good. All right, Sean, everybody's friend. What's your quick, brief answer?
I think just you add transparency to the Fed, and it's that quote. If people understood how the banking system or how it worked, there'd be blood in the streets. It would, or there'd be riots in the streets. That's people don't know. They don't. I was a financial freaking advisor, and I didn't really fully get it until I got into crypto. That's it. We just need more transparency and understanding, and then people will be like, "This sucks."
Mm-hmm. I think I know what Greg's going to say. Go for it, Greg.
My hunch here is that the right answer is blockchain will disrupt the need for a Federal Reserve. Will obsolete it, but it will obsolete it in a very special way. It will obsolete it by making it so nobody's paying attention to it, so that its manipulations no longer move the market, because it's not really setting interest rates. It's changing some of its policies around dollar issuance that increase or decrease interest rates by distorting the market. You eliminate the ability to distort the market by moving the market out of a system they can distort, game over. And that's exactly what's going to happen. It's inevitable, and it will take place whether they want it to or not.
Mm-hmm. Good point. I think the question is flawed, and I wrote it. Your emperor thinks that, and will declare that it says, how can blockchain fix the Federal Reserve? It cannot be fixed. It must be deleted. And to delete it, unfortunately, that means you also have to delete central banking around the world, because the other central banks are going to come to the rescue of the Fed if we were to go after them first. I can think of all the countries that didn't have a central bank and what happened to their leaders, like Gaddafi, like Iraq, the list goes on and on and on, right? So, yes, it needs to be deleted. I wish there was a blockchain that could delete an agency. But that would actually be the people, right? We the people. You're absolutely right, Lisa. It's unnecessary. It's irrelevant, and it's antiquated technology that banking and money is created by a government. It doesn't need to be that way. It's an evolutional process. We've created blockchain and the capability to not need a Federal Reserve, not need a central bank, and not need a government to create and coin money. All right, Andrew.
Well, the reason we have the third central bank is because the money supply was on free market and banks, and the fact that there was no $1. It was fractional reserve between different banks that service different parts of the country. Yep. And that exchange rate made things unstable in theory. And that's why they brought everything on the same page with the dollar. and by doing that, they actually transparent. They move the system from like a concentrated foundation into more like quicksand. And so what blockchain and Bitcoin and everything it does is it kind of concentrates that ground again, that foundation, so that people will have to make compromises and the market will return.
Good. Zach.
I think the answer you were looking for was the National Bank Act of 1862 led to the fractional reserve banks between investment banking, funding the government, utilizing fractional reserves so that they could set up a central bank. And then inevitably the Fed, its goal is actually to end itself and devour itself so that it can bring in the IMF, restructure, and place us into a global standard. But I digress on that. The fact of the matter is when we look at the blockchain and the Federal against the Federal Reserve, that's agorism in praxis. So you're effectively forcing the Fed to capitulate to the market, and it can't, because that's not how it works. And it's falling. So it has to pivot. And the only way to pivot is to continue down the same stretch road that it was created in the first place, was destroy itself and hope that the IMF can come in and the global standard, the World Bank, and fast track this world government order.
Yeah.
Right.
SDRs as opposed to reserve notes, right?
Yeah. Duran says decapitation of the Federal Reserve. Now, going back to our previous question, I just got to mention there's been a lot of comments. Like maybe we need to do a show on chemtrails, right? Radar New Jersey says, I've tracked in real time the trails and believe it's added to the fuel, and it's commercial jets creating them.
I will
that
say
would be difficult with the physics of jets.
That would
Radar,
be. I will say on that, Dr. Phil, RFK actually did hint that as well. He's like, well, they say that it's coming from the fuel, so could be possible, but yeah, I'm with Greg. The physics of it wouldn't make sense.
1984 says, Radar, I read something about the temperature when it's burned disperses it better. That true? Have you heard that? And then he says, I have seen spray nozzles just outside the exhaust area. Oh, here we go. All right, next question. And it's our final one. And look at that. We got RFK again. This is a kind of a good one. I like it. U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced a $15 million research project to study autism causes, creating a database, sounds like blockchain, of autism diagnosed Medicare and Medicaid enrollees, integrating claims data, medical records, and wearable device data, sparking privacy and ethics concerns. Critics, including advocacy groups, warn of potential data misuse and stigmatization, despite HHS's assurances of compliance with privacy laws. How can blockchain help this research project? Zach, we'll start with you and go up. Plug in blockchain in this research project to study the causes of autism.
Blockchain would help reveal it better.
Transparency.
Transparency. So if it's on chain, then everybody can go in, they can see, they can track all the data right there and then, see who's a part of it, who's doing more nefarious deeds, and know who the bad eggs are, and then what are the solutions. You could put all this together, the funding, you could put all this together, and everybody can finally hold their representatives accountable.
Andrew,
I know Bitcoin Cash protocol had like a decentralized GoFundMe style program. I think maybe if you go online with I can submit my information if it reaches a certain number, or people voluntarily submit their information privately and anonymously. That'll definitely take go in the long run.
I'm going to say that, blockchain is certainly a perfect fit for this. You could still maintain some privacy of the data. And you can certainly make sure that the data isn't being altered or changed after it's once received to try to come up with a particular answer that either, you know, how can I say it? Keeps an entity or a group of entities or a corporation or industry um, not liable anymore for the causes, or maybe it can help make sure that the data isn't, you know, deleted. It could be preserved, you know, for even in the future, so we can go back and take another look at the data if we've come to a wrong conclusion. So blockchain is a perfect fit for this. Greg, what say you?
I think it would be potentially a powerful way to get a grip on exactly the sweep of autism in the world, right? We don't have a really good, clear picture of how people are afflicted across different areas. We don't really have a great definition of autism in a lot of ways. Giving people the ability to put their information out there willingly of their own accord to help try to solve the global crisis that it is, right? That could be a game changer in terms of understanding, you know, where the populations most affected are, things like that. And if it could be done in a way that preserves people's privacy on chain, it could be voluntary. And that would be probably the best way to get an idea of who's really afflicted with it, where they reside, how dense the affliction zones are. Like, you know, we would be able to see on a map just exactly where people are the most afflicted. And I'm guessing that would be a big hint as to where any causal relationships between autism and people who self-identify as having it exist.
For example, why is it more males than females? Why do the Amish have such a low rate?
Is it more
and
males
why
than
do
females
Eastern
even?
world have such a low rate? Satoshi Sean, you're muted, my friend. Everybody's friend's muted. There you go. What do you say, Sean?
I think encryption would play the biggest part on this. And have you own your own keys. You would decide who gets the information, how much information they get. Something like what was that thing where it's like if you wanted to go to a certain site and they just needed to know what state you were in. If you're in a bad state that they're blocked, that's all the information that they would get. You had to give them like your public key, and then that's all they could get. And or if they just wanted to verify you're over 21, that's all the information they could get. So it's just if you, with blockchain, if we had more control over who sees the information and knowing who sees the information.
Good one. Lisa.
I have so many issues with this. Being that I have a child that is adopted through foster care, and so he receives Medicaid. And so to think that he's opted into a study without my consent that would track him is really offensive, and I think violates his constitutional rights. So I have a real hard time with this. And I think the advocacy groups have a legitimate concern with that. I don't know. I mean, yeah, blockchain can help with a lot of things, but it's also, you know, a slippery slope because it is a data collecting and who has the information. So
Structured the right way, it can also make data redactable later, right? You can actually make it so that blockchain facilitates the removal of information once it's been used.
Yeah, but it's also when studies are done, it's typically they already know the outcome that they want, and data can be manipulated to produce whatever outcome the person that typically is presenting the money wants, and the fact that they are looking at only Medicaid, Medicare enrollees also could be, I would imagine, skewing results because you're not taking that in itself, you know, is saying either low income or people that might have disabilities, you're taking just from that. So you're not saying from Gen Pop, so that's going to skew studies as well. So I can't even get to the blockchain. Sorry, my mom in it thing. Like, I just have so much trouble with this. And for them to say, like, you already have a captive audience, why would you need an additional $50 billion of research money on somebody that you already have can draw data at any time? Like, that's just kind of bullshit to me. So sorry, this just pisses me off in so many ways.
Good. Zach, not that you're pissed off about it.
No, it's fine.
Great answer, please.
Oh, I answered.
Yeah, obviously, people like
think we
Lisa
round
should be the front and center around designing any solution, right? It should be able to pass the Lisa's okay with this test in order for it to be acceptable, I think.
I would kind of go a different route. I bet us 6 individuals, if we were given even half that amount, could probably find the elements within the environment that are causing autism. If we were given that money, and would probably maintain people's privacy and get an honest result rather than a result that a government might want to be printed and public, propagandized, right?
Right, because this wearable device has nothing to do with what is the solution you're looking for. Yeah. That tracking, violating someone's privacy has nothing to do with the solution of preventing autism.
Yes.
Well, the wearable device kind of concerns me because the number of the beast.
Sure.
So, yeah.
I mean, Social Security numbers.
Social Security is also part of that number of the beast. So
let a private group do it rather than the government, and I think we'll get an honest answer. There you go. All right. Well, guess what? Now we have what is in the news today. We got a little bit. We don't have to now provide blockchain solutions. So that kind of concludes our questions on the World Blockchain Roundtable. We are now over 275 watching live.
Nice.
We appreciate all of you, wherever you're watching and listening and commenting. Thank you. What's happening in the news that we haven't already covered? Anyone else want to bring something up?
Trump's deal.
Trump's deal. What deal?
The UK. I put it in the private chat. There's a link to it that you could pull up a visual for everybody.
Let's see if I can do that.
His big announcement.
The best deal ever. Believe me.
It's a hell of a
doesn't
deal.
Involve them turning
Believe
off their
Believe me.
apparatus.
It's the best deal. It's the biggest deal. It's the greatest deal. We're gonna make America great again.
It's a hell of a
It's
deal.
pretty good impersonation.
Excellent.
I don't know if I'll be able to play the video.
It is actually not a bad deal.
Well, there's a.
I'm going to pull it up.
Screenshot.
You
Sorry.
know about this? This deal includes billions of dollars of increased market access for American exports, especially in agriculture. Dramatically increases America's access for American beef, ethanol, and virtually all of the products produced by our great farmers. So it is a president announces a major trade deal with the United Kingdom. This ended up being a hell of a deal for us. $6 billion in new tariff revenue. U.S. tariffs on imports for UK raises to 10%. UK tariffs on imports from U.S. lowered to 1.8%. $5 billion in new exports from the U.S. So
is anybody really surprised the first party that he made a deal with was the United Kingdom?
Kind of.
I don't think that's
kind
a
of
deal, is it?
I mean, we did go out of our way at the European Security Conference to say that if you weren't going to be, upholding the values of the West, that we wouldn't treat you like a Western partner. And I don't see any part of this deal that has them turning off their mass surveillance and censorship of their people.
Boy, I sure like it that we're exporting tobacco and soft drinks. That sure makes us look like a
Well, farm
Number
products
one.
are the one good thing you can absolutely say about this is farm products have typically been one of the biggest barrier or trade barrier to items that goes against the U.S. Are one of our biggest, if you look at just like Ricardo type early economics, right? The foundational principles of trade that make it make sense, right? Our comparative advantage is in arable land. It always has been. U.S. farm products could dominate the world if there were not trade barriers, and this lowers those, and I think that's a good thing.
When Trump met with Carney, I thought that was really cool and interesting to see, like, honesty and the bluntness. And Carney didn't know what to do. He's like, "Yeah, we want to, we're our best friends." He's like, "Yeah, we love Canada, and and honestly, you use our army. We're going to defend you, even if you don't pay for it. We're going to defend you because we like you. That's how we are. We're going to do it." And he's like, "Yeah, you can. We want you to get this tariffs fixed so you can buy our cars." And our Steve goes, "Oh, we don't want to buy your cars. Why we don't buy our own cars? We don't buy your cars. We don't want your steel. We don't want your aluminum. We don't want to buy that for you. Why would we want to buy it for you? We want to make it ourselves." And it's just such common sense. Such like, why would we want to buy something from you when we just make it ourselves and not have to import it? And it was
the question. The question is, how fast can we get those factories ramped up? Well,
I mean, and also consumer choice, right? Some people just prefer Jaguars, even though they're garbage.
True, and it also takes into account, you got to think of the logistics.
It's them fighting
of getting things to that factory rather than shipping them to a different factory. There's a logistics delay that's going to happen. Not that it's great. Hey, manufacturing locally and supplying locally is always a better deal, a better thing.
We can no longer freely import the world's least reliable cars.
The Yugos?
No. The Land Rovers.
Some of you will remember that. Or Le Car from France?
Land Rover. Land Rover has
Land Rover.
Yeah. I'm making fun of myself here too because I have one of those, but I can tell you that as far as breakdowns and expense to fix go, they're not bright and shiny. The Brits have been importing garbage our way for some time.
I have to admit.
Some of it is awesome garbage, and that's why I love my awesome garbage car. But
remember when Yugos were buy one get one
free?
Yeah.
Something tells me the Land Rover is actually built in India, though.
I'm not sure.
Mahindra. Was it Mahindra or Autos? That was another one.
What I have has a U.S. built engine, so
does it? It's probably.
Yeah. What else is happening in the news? That was a good one, Lisa. Thank you.
James O'Keefe came out with his big announcement yesterday. So what I thought was interesting about it was it wasn't actually an hour before. Alex Jones really showed his ass, in my opinion. At around, 2:00 Eastern time. Well, it was Alex Jones said, "I've been given the dead man switch from James O'Keefe. And in about an hour from now, James O'Keefe is going to come out and show that Pam Bondi and Pfizer are dirty and blah, blah, blah." And then nothing happened an hour later. So I don't know if that was to show that Alex Jones can't be trusted, that he's dirty, or if things will come out later, because apparently there's a 3-part rolling out of things. And then, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 hours later, James O'Keefe comes out and says that it's this guy, and I can't remember his name now, but he was living with the Duchess for a while, and he says he was Lady Di's best friend, and that he admits that he stood up for Prince Andrew and some WAPO news thing, and he's it's one of those young girls dating him.
And he said he made a statement.
Yeah,
he was mad because
he covered for him, and he goes, "Because I know that he did. Yeah, he did F those little kids. He was effing little girls.
Oh my God.
And so that's the big woo that
He
we
said
all know.
underage
Pretty sure
girl,
everybody knew that already.
and that was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And so-
that's not cool, man. I think he said that's not cool.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, that was a big nothing burger. So, but it's supposedly it's a 3-part big coming out. So maybe the Bondi Pfizer thing is still rolling out. I did see information that she did previously defend them, and so there could be a conflict of interest there, and that's where like
Probably a
but I
long
don't
way
think
for a
so.
train don't
We're
come
all-
in all,
we
in all
all
likelihood.
have defended Pfizer. We all paid Pfizer our money. We've all given to Pfizer whatever, our kids.
It's in
we've
our
all,
401ks.
if we have to look at connections to Pfizer, every single person here is connected to Pfizer.
Mhm.
It's the system that's messed up.
Yep.
But if she had a case that she worked and she was working for a law firm and Pfizer was a client, that's the way it is.
mhm.
Yeah.
As Emperor, I
yeah.
want to show this to everybody. It's just a flesh wound.
Yeah.
That's how we all feel right now. Stat.
It was
Or a
posting
really
on
cool, a
Facebook.
really cool knife block,
I
man.
was
That could be the
thinking
world's
that
coolest
is-
knife
Isn't that
block.
cool?
Yeah.
It's a knife
Yeah.
block.
Also, while
That's
we've
I
neat.
did.
been in the show, the conclave. Speaking of the conclave, this black smoke came out supposedly.
Yeah, before it started,
Mhm.
they
What?
did black.
Who
Okay.
they
If
rejected.
black
So-
smoke means they still
Black
don't
smoke means
have
they didn't
one.
find
They
one.
still don't
Yeah.
have it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So,
So
It's
another
white
vote.
smoke.
keep a lookout again, because the next time should be 6 p.m., 5 p.m. You guys.
Yep.
Central.
I'm going to make a prediction. We're going to see smoke that we've never seen before. We're going to get a woke pope, and it's going to be rainbow smoke.
Oh,
I
God.
think it's gonna be
Let's hope
vape.
not.
I think it's gonna be
Let's-
vape.
let's
for
hope
the other
not,
times. Yeah, the big
Smoke on the
vape
water,
machine.
fire in the sky, huh?
I'm going to
White
make a
smoke. There you
prediction.
go.
I'm going to make a prediction. We're going to get the white smoke at the end of the week. So tomorrow evening, and it's going to be Trump.
Oh, that would be
They
fun.
Oh,
keep
that's funny.
showing those memes on X or Twitter with the orange smoke just to
Yeah,
rile people.
That's what it's
The
going to
new
be.
Pope's
It's going to
first
be
act
orange.
is going to.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be orange.
Orange smoke.
New Pope's
Oh, I'd
first
love
act
to
is gonna be
Yeah.
to make Catholicism great again.
Wouldn't it be interesting to be a fly on the wall in there and maybe having like a mic and it's getting broadcast and they're secluded from the outside the world, so they wouldn't know. And then we
Mhm.
would hear all the backroom deals that are being done to get someone to be voted in. Because let's face it, it's political. It's not,
Oh,
God
yeah.
told me to vote this way.
Yeah.
Do you think
Oh,
there
yeah.
will ever be a Pope sanctioned blockchain such that the will of the network will in fact be God's will on earth?
Oh, we can only hope, right?
What was the one pope that came
Indulgence
out
chain.
and told everybody that Villa Villagos, Villagos, that he came out and talked about all the evil stuff that the Catholic Church was doing, and
Was it Benedict?
no, oh, maybe I thought it
It
was
might have
like
been
the V.
Mhm.
That he came out and talked about all the evil stuff, and then they like kicked him out. It would be awesome if it was him brought back in, and
I don't know.
Maybe.
This Pope was the
They were in the
only
church.
Jesuit that was ever. They weren't supposed to ever have a Jesuit Pope, and this was
Wow.
the only
That's-
Jesuit Pope ever.
he's also the only pope buried on top of
St.
what's his
Peter.
name?
St. Peter.
Peter. Yeah,
Yeah.
All the-
and he's the last one in their little,
Oh, Malachi.
in the pictures around the thing.
Well, I think we have 6 of us. I like it. It's nice and balanced. It really helps my OCD. 3 on 3. I like it.
Yep.
But
Well, the Jesuit notion that give me the child for the
Ghana,
first 8
yes,
years
thank
and
Big Yana.
give me the child for the first 8 years and I'll guarantee you the morality of the man kind of thing. Not such a hot notion in this day's Catholic Church, right? I don't think we want to give them our kids for the first 8 years.
No,
Mm,
I wouldn't want to
Nope.
give any organized religion my child at this
No.
point. Too
Here's
much.
an interesting. Iran and Russia don't have central banks.
Iran does.
I
Iran
thought,
does.
Well,
I thought Iran did not.
Oh, the Islamic
Iran-
approach to banking is
yeah.
different.
yeah, it's a lot different. It's not attached to the Rothschild system that we're attached to.
It does the same thing,
it's-
though. It regulates the currency. And
Yeah.
it's
But the way that they deal with their doctrine's approach to lending is substantially different.
Yes.
And in a lot of ways, this is one of the areas where, if you know anybody who who's talked about Muslim banking and the way that it needs to be operated, blockchain is one of the ways where that can be scaled. But up to now, because of the nature of the way lending works, it has to do with enforcement through community as opposed to enforcement through cranking up of interest rates and collection approaches. Like it's a more human approach to lending, I think.
Yeah.
And certainly prevents the kinds of problems that we have in lending with U.S. banking, with London style banking, right? By making sure that the community and your friends are responsible for your repayment.
Yes.
And that's actually kind of a neat thing that I just want. I mean, I don't know why that became germane just now, but if they did have any kind of central banking, it would have to be in concordance with those principles, and that would make it a little different than what we're used to calling central banking.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we got to wrap this up. There's 6 of us, and I would like to find, and I'm sure the audience wants to find where they can find you and learn more about you and hear what you all have to say. So, Greg, you're going to be first up. We'll go to Sean, Lisa, and I'll come up around to me. Please be brief so we can exit before our 2-hour deletion mark.
Oh, I'm excited.
279 watching. Thank you, everybody.
I'm excited right now to be talking about the DIN project, Decentralized Infrastructure Network. This is the first time I've been able to officially come out and say, hey, this is what we're working on, right? And it's going to basically be a step in the direction of what happened to Parler will not be possible again. Because infrastructure, if it's a marketplace, where people who are providing infrastructure can connect to it and people who need infrastructure support can connect to the network. If one goes down, the next one just takes its place. It creates a game of whack-a-mole that makes it impossible to target infrastructure as a weak centralization point. And that's something we're working on right now. So come follow me on @DesignHeretic everywhere you find that name. And I'll tell you more about it. And it's going to be really exciting. So more to follow.
Cool. Satoshi Sean, where can we find you? What's new?
Yeah, on YouTube. Check out me and Lisa on Tuesdays, Truth Tuesday. On the social medias, all that. So Sean.
All right. Lisa.
He's keeping it brief. So you can find me on YouTube at Litecoin Lisa on the New Normal channel. But it's if you search for Litecoin Lisa, like the coin, you'll find me there. And then at Lisa Mighty Davis on X and on other platforms, True Social and elsewhere. But I do a weekday show and different current topics and have lots of wonderful guests like I Am for Am and Satoshi Sean. And every Friday I do a happy hour, and we have a lot of great people in the live chat, great community that participates as well. So join us in the live chat any day you can.
Zach.
Well, I'm going to plug if you want to support us all. We're on Patreon now. We haven't done anything with it, but we want to see if we can build a community with it. But if you want to support us, The Legacy Ride is on Patreon as well as locals. Other than that, you can check us out. We do a show every Friday at 11 a.m. live streamed on YouTube, X, and Rumble, The Legacy Ride, which I'll let Andrew discuss what we're going to do on tomorrow. But that's where you can catch us. We also do Legacy News Tuesday, Wednesdays. This week it was Monday, Wednesday, but we're a little we're a little frugal on the first episode of the week for Legacy News. So, but that's about it.
Cool. And
Hey, tomorrow we're going to finish up the Enneagram: A Christian Perspective by Rich Rohr and Andreas Ebert, and we're just going to finish the last couple sermons and discuss that, and I guess go on to the next thing we're going to talk about. We'll talk about that tomorrow. So check us out at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern, Legacy Right on X, YouTube, Rumble, and just thanks for watching.
And anywhere else that your little heart likes to listen to podcasts.
Sweet.
Bless his heart.
This is hard. Well, everyone, you need to join us next week. Next week is going to be a crazy show. We're going to talk about Pizza Day with Bitcoin Pizza Day, I guess happened in May, way back when. But more importantly, it will be the 4th year anniversary of World Blockchain Roundtable. 4 years this show's been going on. So next week, be sure and join us. Same time, same channel, same place. It's 10 a.m. Central on Thursday. What's happening with the emperor of Din.social? Well, a lot of things are getting ready to happen with Din. Now the Dragon Chain case has been won against the SEC. The Dragon has been released. And so Din.social is working on a rebranding. Of course, we'll have to pass a DAO vote. We're going to have a meeting today at 2 p.m. You're welcome to join us. Cameras are optional. And we'll talk a little bit about the rebranding and the purpose and what we hope to add and being uncensorable and stopped, like Greg talked about.
Platform
Exciting,
is coming.
very exciting, very huge. And who's to say what's going to happen with the Matter token with only 1.9 million of them out there? Just saying. And not financial advice. Also, I want to shout out and thank you to Litecoin Lisa for having me on her show this past Monday. It was good. It was kind of dark. We talked about the bioweapon from within and the kind of a history of immunization and what was in that. And ties into Lee Harvey Oswald even. So watch that. It's going to be good. But everyone, we are now almost getting close to 300 watching as we sign off today. Thank you again for everybody watching today. We appreciate all of you. We hope to see you again here next week. Joe, I know you're out there listening. We miss you, buddy, but I know you're trying to finish up with Dracaria. It's so close. So we're going to go out with the trailer of Dracaria going out.
Yep. It's going to blow
everybody,
people's minds,
thanks.
honestly.
Great questions.
It's epic.
Thanks, everybody. And we will see you next week, 4th anniversary.
Okay.